周一長談今日又同大家深入時事話題。最近聯邦政府通過咗 C-24 法案，亦都係修改我哋國籍法。從好簡單咁嚟睇的話，就係對於入籍嘅規定做咗比較嚴格嘅規定，所以引起好多律師、好多移民行業界嘅或者係社區嘅領袖嘅反對同埋唔同嘅聲音。但係呢個法案咧已經係通過咗啦，所以半年之後就會實施。所以喺呢個情況之下，周一長談今日想同大家傾下嘅就係到底新嘅規定係咩嘢？有啲咩我哋以後要注意嘅，同埋點解會有咁嘅規定？我哋今日咧非常高興請到由Toronto 過嚟嘅，佢嘅選區係 Richmond Hill， 所以我哋多倫多嘅朋友你好，你哋嘅國會議員今日嚟到我哋現場同我哋傾下啦。呢位咧佢亦都係我哋移民同埋公民部嘅國會秘書 Parliamentary Secretary， 佢就係我哋嘅國會議員 Costas Menegakis。I hope I pronounced it right.
You did. Yeah, absolutely.
佢呢個名係希臘裔嘅名，所以咧我哋今日就特別請到佢嚟，同我哋講解下點解同埋以後我哋應該要點樣注意嚟申請國籍法。Thank you very much. The C-24 now is a law, but I believe it will be in full effect in 6 months and to a year.
It is a law. Some elements are already in force, but within 6 months it'll be fully operational, if you will. But I want to start off by thanking you very much for welcoming me in your beautiful studio here, and for giving me an opportunity to talk to you about these very important issues that affect all Canadians.
Yeah, I think the more contentious it is, the more it is important that we have to dig the truth out and let people know the details that how we deal with it, because it is like it or not, it's a law now.
It is.
Yeah. So this whole introduction of the C-24 generated a lot of opposition and a lot of different voices, but it's still passed. But there was I summarized all the criticism, and I think there's 3 main points, and I would like you to elaborate and explain to us it is true or not about this criticism, and since it is a law now, what should we look at and be careful in the future as it comes along. So the first, of course, is the most, some even accuse that it is unconstitutional, is the revocation of citizenship. Because we read out there is a lot of misunderstanding, and one basic criticism is that you created 2 classes of citizens. One is dual citizenship Canadian, and one is born Canadian. And for dual citizenship, the Canadians, the minister himself, and not the court, can take away your citizenship anytime he deems it necessary. Is that true?
Well, first of all, let me just say, these are the first comprehensive changes to Canada's Citizenship Act in almost 40 years, in 37 years. The last changes happened in 1977. It's a different world today than it was 37 years ago. With respect to revocation, the criticisms are not true. We're talking about dual citizens. We're not talking about the 99.999% of law-abiding Canadian citizens that have dual citizenship. We are speaking about stripping citizenship from those that perpetrate the most heinous of crimes: treason, high treason, espionage, terror against Canada or Canadian troops, against our country. No Canadian, irrespective of whether they have one citizenship, the Canadian citizenship, or dual citizenship, wants terrorists and criminals in their communities. It is not true that the minister can arbitrarily strip citizenship from somebody.
What's the procedure? I think that's very important.
I think it's important to note that if someone has been found guilty of those crimes of treason, high treason, espionage, terror against our country, Canada, or has perpetrated those crimes somewhere else and did not disclose them when they came into the country and fraudulently obtained their citizenship, then their citizenship can be stripped. After, of course, they have been convicted by a court of those crimes. They still have to go through the judicial system. They still have to be found guilty of of these crimes, and then their citizenship can be stripped. In the case where they have committed these crimes outside of Canada, it would have to be under a judicial system that is recognized equal to Canadian law. Dual citizens do not have to worry about this. My family came here from Greece in the 1950s. Pretty much every member of my family is a dual citizen. We don't worry about this because we're not criminals. No Canadian wants to have a terrorist living next door to them, irrespective of whether they're a dual citizen or a Canadian citizen. Nobody wants them living next door to them. So to us, as a government, we feel that if you perpetrate those crimes against our country, then you have violated the pledge you made in Canada when you came here, the pledge you made to abide by Canadian laws. The swearing-in ceremony at a Canadian citizenship ceremony entails allegiance to the country, allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and that I will abide by the laws of Canada. If you violate that, you lose your citizenship.
I think we can understand the rationale on this, but the big question is, why only dual citizenship? If there is a born Canadian and did the same thing as you have just described, espionage or terrorists against Canada, what do we deal with them? Because it's all about fairness at this point that people are talking about.
It is about fairness. Canada is signatory to an international convention that says that we cannot render somebody stateless. So if they don't have another citizenship, we cannot take away their citizenship because we're signatories to that convention. So in that case, where a Canadian has perpetrated those crimes, they will do their prison time and they stay in prison. If there's a Canadian who has a dual citizenship, then he's choosing to attack this particular country, then he's violating his bond and his responsibility as a Canadian citizen, and therefore, in our opinion, he's renouncing his right to citizenship.
That raised me another question: is that if he is if that individual has dual citizenship and he was already sentenced by the court, but when he was stripped of his the citizenship, Canadian citizenship, does he need to finish his sentencing?
Of course.
And
you're not absolved of. If those terrorists are not absolved of the normal judicial process.
But then after
doing their prison time, of course.
Yeah, after his prison time, he will be sent out of Canada.
Once they're sentenced, and they are found guilty in a court of law in Canada of these heinous crimes, they'll be in prison. They won't be Canadian citizens, but they'll be in prison.
Now, is there any further definition of espionage or assisting because, for instance, if Greek is engaged in a war with another country other than Canada, and these two countries, Canada is friendly to the other country and support them, and so as if the Greek Canadian goes to help the Greek their motherland, is that considered as a betrayal of Canada?
No, it does not. It would have to be in a situation where we would deem it as an act of war against equivalent to being against Canada or against Canadian allies, against the values that we hold so dear to our hearts here in Canada, the values of respect for the right, for law, for human rights respect, freedom, democracy. If any citizen, whether they're born here or not, engages in activity that violates those values and those principles that are at the foundation of our country, then they'll be stripped of their citizenship.
It's the activities, not where you're from or where you're going to.
No, absolutely not. It's if you are found guilty of acts of war that entail terror, treason, high treason, espionage, equivalent to Canadian law, then you're guilty of those crimes.
And they will be charged, and they will go through a legal system.
Absolutely.
And once they are sentenced, then their citizenship will be stripped up. It's not like that. If there is any report that certain people are doing this, the minister can have that right to just strip it off.
Absolutely not. That's the fallacy of the problem with some of this criticism, is that there will be an arbitrary decision because somebody said something to somebody.
Yeah.
There's a due process that's going to take place, and dual citizens in Canada, Canadian citizens, have nothing to worry about. Law-abiding people do not have to worry about this.
And unless, I just want to make sure before I finish our first half, and time goes so fast, until their citizenship has been stripped off, they are still protected by the Canadian law as a Canadian citizen deserves.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. 我哋而家休息一下，跟住落嚟我哋繼續去傾下呢個新嘅國籍法。